Good afternoon. We're going to start with our hydrotherapy class. And let's have a quick word of prayer before we start. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you so much for your blessings and for your protection and for bringing us here together one more time to be able to learn some more of the message that you have for us. And we just want to ask you that you may open our minds and our hearts to be able to receive this knowledge, that we might be able to be a blessing to others in the future. In your name I pray, amen. Okay, I'm going to start reading a quote. It's from The Desire of Ages, page 824. And we're going to see one of the examples that we have in hydrotherapy. And it says, in the Savior's manner of healing, there was lessons for his disciples. On one occasion, he anointed the eyes of a blind man with clay and bade him go wash in the pool of Siloam. He went his way, therefore, and washed and came seeing. The cure could be wrought only by the power of the great healer, yet Christ made use of the simple agencies of nature. While he did not give countenance to drug medication, he sanctioned the use of simple and natural remedies. It also tells us in the Bible Commentary, Volume 7, page 938, and it says, water, wisely applied, is a most powerful remedy. So, do you think that miracles still happen today? Like, when Jesus, he went many times when he was here, he would just touch a person and they were healed, But we also see examples where he actually used some simple remedies, some simple things from nature to heal the people. And we know that in these last days, we are going to see many miracles like that happen again. And many times, the enemy is also using the same method to try to deceive us. Many people just use the touch to heal people. So God provided other methods for us to see these miracles happen now, and we are part of that. We are used as instruments to be able to see these miracles. And so it is said also in Second Selected Messages, page 346, it says, natural means used in accordance with God's will bring about supernatural results. We ask for a miracle, and the Lord directs the mind to some simple remedy. So let's see, what is hydrotherapy? If we just look for the definition, hydro comes from water, therapy, like treatment. So hydrotherapy is the use of water, either internally or externally. It can be in each of the three different forms that it comes, which are solid, liquid, or vapor, and is the use of the water in each of its forms for the treatment of disease or injury. So let's review that. What's hydrotherapy? Is the use of water as a therapy, either internally or externally. It can be in either liquid, solid, or vapor for the use of for the treatment of disease or injury. So it's like, as far as is hydrotherapy something new, something that just was discovered a few months ago or a few years ago, or is exactly it's been like there's records of hydrotherapy ever since medicine started, and they have records back to 450 before Christ. And yeah, they said like the Romans, they used to go to these Roman baths, but they used to do that not for a recreation, but they did that for healing purposes. So, but it was during the Dark Ages, the interest was lost in hydrotherapy. They didn't really use it much, and until there was this young man. His name was Vincent Prisnitz, and he was called the father of hydrotherapy. He lived around the 1800s. And there's a story that he says that one time he was a farmer as a young man, and he one time got injured by one of his farm animals, and he went to the doctor to get some help, and the doctor just told him basically, there's no hope for you, you just have to go home and die. So as a farmer, many times he had treated his animals with hydrotherapy. So he thought about it, and he said, how come if I'm treating my animals with this, maybe I should try it on myself. So he did that. He tried the treatments that he used in his animals on himself, and he recovered very rapidly. And so what he did, he opened an institute in Austria, and many people came, and started learning from him how to do these treatments. As time went on, many other institutes were established all around the world. And, Sister White had a vision on health reform, and it was explained to her in a more clear way, all the different treatments, how water was effective, for the treatment of diseases. And so there was different institutions like Battle Creek and even Loma Linda. They all used to use this kind of treatments there. But, also as time went on, we see that now there's very few places, even hospitals, they use very little, sometimes, an ice pack, but that's basically about the extent of hydrotherapy that they still use. So, yeah, and internally, but it's very little that use, there's very few places like lifestyle centers around the world that still use the art of hydrotherapy. So basically, all of you are very privileged to have, the opportunity to learn a little more about this art and science, and you just have to be able to, share it with others, because it's a privilege, and we need to get back to the blueprint that we have. So it also is, it says on Ministry of Healing on page 145, it says, all gospel workers should know how to give the simple treatments that do so much to relieve pain and remove disease. So it doesn't say, only the health and temperance leaders of the church should know. It says all gospel workers, and we are supposed to all be gospel workers. That was the commission that was given by Jesus to us. So let's look at some of the advantages that we have in using hydrotherapy. It is easily applied to the skin surface. It's not something that you have to go through too much to be able to apply it. It's very easily applied to the skin surface. And we know that the skin is what absorbs the heat the most, and in water also. And it has virtually no side effects. We know many medications today, they might supposedly be helping us with something, but they're causing something else, but hydrotherapy has virtually no side effects. It accomplishes its results through external application, and it can be used locally. So you can just focus on one area at a time, like if you have pain on your knee, you don't need to hurt your liver to cure your knee. You can just apply it to the local area. So that's one of the advantages that we have also, that it can treat a specific body part. It also produces no toxins. On the other hand, it helps to remove the toxins from the body. And, because it increases the body's metabolism, and through sweating, all the toxins are removed from the body. And it also is very inexpensive, and it's very readily available. You're gonna see all the equipment that we're gonna use. It's nothing fancy, I'm sure. Everything that we're gonna use, all of you have in your own homes. And it also imparts a sense of well-being. Like after a treatment, you feel like energized, and it's something that the drugs usually lack. Also, some of the effects that it has in the body is the body is very sensitive to the temperature. Hydrotherapy may be used to move the blood from one area to the other. For example, one treatment that we're going to learn today is the hot foot bath. So many people use that treatment, when they have a headache, for example. They just apply the hot water to the feet, and so that is drawing the congestion that is in the head, draws the blood to the feet, therefore it removes the congestion also. Another effect that it has in the body, it increases the circulation, and this can be done either in a local area of the body or just general circulation. And this happens by when we apply the hot, like it helps to dilate the blood vessels. We apply the cold, and it constricts the blood vessels. So that constant, it's like pumping, so that increases the circulation. It also stimulates the immune system. The white blood cells count, it multiplies, and they become more active. So they're able to fight infections, and anything. So it basically stimulates the immune system by producing more white blood cells, and they're more active, so they're ready to fight. Yes. Yeah, the contrast of the hot and the cold, it improves the circulation, and then it also helps they says that we have in our bodies, we have like the white blood cells, but we have I think it's 30 trillion white blood cells that we have in our body, but most of them are just kind of in a sleeping state. And once we start with this hot and cold, we're stimulating for all of those to wake up. So that's how it increases the count of the white blood cells, and so that they can fight more infection or disease. Another thing that it helps to raise the body temperature. And many of us, when our kids, or if your parents, if they have a fever, the most likely thing is just get a pill to kill the fever, And fever, is it our enemy or is it a friend? It's a friend, exactly. Because it's a natural body defense mechanism, and it's trying to fight, any kind of infection that is, or inflammation that is in the body. So many times hydrotherapy is used, they produce this artificial fever that is going to help to also, fight these diseases. It enhances the defense mechanism, and it's also especially good to fight viral infections. They even use this treatment is called fever therapy to treat diseases even like cancer, because elevating the temperature for a long period of time, always controlling it. And it also helps release heat from the body in the case of fever. Yes. Yes. Okay. Yeah, she's asking in the case of fever, with what would we use? I know in most cases, we always learn that we just apply cold, but it actually says that it's better to put them in a hot bath, of course, always keeping the head cool, and that also helps to release the heat from inside of the body. To apply the heat to the surface of the skin, it helps to release the heat from inside of the body. You can do a hot foot bath, but most of the time it's good to do a neutral bath, or if not, a half bath, from the waist down. You fill the tub halfway and just from the waist down. With hot water, about 102 degrees. Yes, but always keeping the head cool. Yeah, you can put a cold washcloth. Another thing, it helps to promote relaxation. Many people have, insomnia anxiety. So we saw many cases, of people that if you just put them in a neutral bath, this is like body temperature, like 97 degrees, 96, around there. You put them in a neutral bath before they go to bed, and it has like a sedative effect, and it helps them to be able to sleep through the night. Also, it helps to reduce pain. This is something that I learned that it was very interesting, that I thought it says that we have like pain and temperature pathways that send like signals to the brain, and they go through the spinal cord. And the pain and temperature pathways are so close together that when we have pain in the body, there's like a lot of signals being sent to the brain, like there's pain. But when we apply some kind of heat or something to the body, then there's, a lot more receptors through the whole skin. So it's like, when there's a lot of traffic, they're like pushing the other way. So there's like, the temperature takes over, the pathways of the temperature take over. So the signals are not able to get to the brain for the pain anymore. So that's how it helps to be able to, reduce pain. It's called the gate effect, gate pathways, because it's been, they've been studying, and they realize there's like this little gate, that goes between the spinal cord to the brain, for the signals to be taken there. You can, in this case, you can apply either to the pain where it's coming, unless it's like some kind of inflammation, because hot to the part. Usually it's best to apply it like it has a reflexive effect. Like to say, if you have a cast on and so of course you cannot apply the fomentation or anything if you have a cast on and you have pain in this arm. To try to improve the circulation, you can apply it in this arm, and it would improve the circulation, because it says that our body has like different reflexes. So like if we apply like a fomentation to the chest, it sends signals, because our skin is connected, it's like a whole organ. So it's connected through different organs and blood vessels and everything to different parts of the body. So it will help to release the pain in other places also. Yes. It also helps to open your airways. Sometimes when you have congestion, it's good to do some kind of treatment, and also like improving the circulation and everything. It helps to open your airways, and it promotes rapid healing of like wounds and those kind of things. I'm gonna mention some things that are very important there are very important points that you need to remember before you do a treatment. And that's like, if you're talking about the room, you always need to be sure to keep the treatment room warm, not hot, just warm and free from drafts. You don't want to have like drafts, because you're gonna be wetting the patient, and they can get chilled. So you also want to make the patient very comfortable. So you don't want to have like bright lights in the room, that are gonna be bothering the eyes of the patient. You want a quiet atmosphere. Some people like music as a relaxation, but some people get stressed with music, so if it's something like soft music, like sacred music, classical music, it's, some people don't mind, but you can always ask the patient if it's okay. It can also be something like for relaxation and help in the treatment. And always, be mindful, because like if you are in the patient's house, be mindful always of protecting the bedding and the furniture, and not getting it all wet and everything. You always have to be careful not to spread infections. Like always wash your hand before and after the treatment, and if the patient or yourself, if you're contagious, always like wear a mask, and also for that also for the patient, and always keep the modesty of the patient. And what I'm saying is, like, when you're doing the treatment, most of the time the patient is gonna have like a lot of areas uncovered, like usually they're gonna be in a gown or something like that. But you always want to keep the modesty of the patient just so they can feel comfortable. Also, you have to make sure you have a clear understanding of the patient's diagnosis. Why do we want to make sure of this? Because if you don't know what a person really has, you may be treating them, and instead of doing, instead of helping, it might cause more damage than actually help. For example, for diabetics, we cannot do a like hot foot bath, without making sure the temperature is like low, because they lose sensation in the legs, and so there's some treatments that have contraindications. So you always have to make sure to be able to know the diagnosis of the patient. Yes. Yeah, it's best for diabetics not to apply heat to the lower limbs, to the extremities. Yeah. And another thing, you always want to explain the procedure to your patient. Always explain it to them step by step. Tell them everything you're gonna do in the treatment. And in this way, they won't be shocked once they just, you just splash the cold water on them. It's always good to explain to them this is going to happen, and you can explain a little bit of how is it going to help them. Then you can always plan ahead for your treatment, because it's very uncomfortable, when you have the patient already there and she's laying down ready for the treatment, and in the middle you forgot that you don't have a towel, so you're leaving them there all wet, so always plan ahead for your treatment. Have everything ready beside your bed. Make sure everything is in the room, and that way you don't have to move. You have to always be beside the patient or within calling distance. And you have to, and one reason why this is important is so you can observe any reactions that the patient might have. Because sometimes they might have a reaction to the treatment, like hyperventilating, or, their blood pressure might drop too much. And so you always have to be watching for any signs of uncomfort. Then you always have to use the towels that you use. Like I'm gonna show you how you're gonna do, but when you're gonna wet the towel in cold water, make sure you wring the towels well, because when they're like soapy wet, they feel colder. And so it might seem like something little, but all those things, they can cause chilling in the patient. And you always have to, before you do the treatment with a patient, you always have to ask the patient if they ate, how long ago they ate. You should wait at least 1 hour before you start the treatment, and let them, because it will affect their digestion, because the hydrotherapy, what it's doing, is drawing the blood away from the stomach, so we don't want to do that. And also, if they just exercised, you have to wait till their heart rate comes to like normal, and for about 10 minutes. After the heart rate is normal, you wait like 10 minutes, and then you can do the treatment. Because if not, their heart rate can increase even more. Also, you always have to insist that the patient rests after the treatment, because that will complete the treatment. Many times after the treatment, they're still sweating and everything. So they always need to rest to complete the treatment. And many times I know we make the mistake, we feel the water and for us it's cold, but then you have the patient and they tell you it's too hot, and you think, oh, they're just being, annoying or difficult patient. Never think the patient is wrong. If they say it's too hot, it's too hot. So you either add cold water or add another protection to the fermentation, or but always the patient is always right. Yes. We're gonna look at a few problems that you might experience during a treatment, and that can be the patient is not warming up enough, like to sweat, and because we want to get them to sweat usually in a treatment so that toxins can be removed. So if the patient is not warming up enough to sweat, you can either give them some water to drink, warm water to drink, or you can put fermentation, like a hot fermentation, like in the lower back of the or like around the buttocks area, and that would help them to warm up. Also, I was mentioning hyperventilation. It occurs when the patient is losing too much carbon dioxide by breathing too fast. So what you can do if the patient is feeling like lightheaded, or dizzy, you just grab like a paper bag and just put it like on their face and let them breathe in and out for a few minutes until they feel okay, like until the numbness of the extremities or the dizziness goes away. Also, another thing that can happen is the blood pressure might drop too low. So if the patient is feeling like dizzy or weak, you always make sure you check their blood pressure. And if it's below 80/60, then you want to discontinue the treatment and elevate the legs and give them like a salty broth. 80/60. If it's below that, you want to discontinue the treatment, elevate their legs, and give them a salty broth to drink. Elevate the legs. Yes, so this is some things that you want to remember before you do a treatment. And now we're gonna go on to the hot foot bath. This is a treatment that is done by placing the feet in hot water. And some things that are very good, this treatment is good for, is to shorten colds. If someone has a headache or a chest congestion, any kind of congestion in the body, like by drawing the blood to the feet, is gonna release the congestion. For headaches, it's like one of the best things because it takes the blood away from the head to the feet. Also even to stop nosebleeds, it's really helpful. Pelvic cramps or prostate disorders. It also helps toothaches, backaches, and it also helps to relieve fatigue and nervous tension. It helps to reduce a fever, and also it can be used just to warm up the body. So if I try to choose, because we have such a short time, I try to choose the treatments that would be the most useful. And basically, hot foot bath is one of the most complete treatments if any treatment, I think this is the most important one because it helps for so many things. Yeah, except for like to shorten colds, chest congestion, or any other kind of congestion in the body, flu, coughs, headaches, stop nosebleeds, pelvic cramps, prostate disorders, it has to lower pain anywhere in the body, like from a toothache to a backache. It relieves fatigue and nervous tension, reduces fever, and it warms up the body. Yes, high blood pressure, yes. This is very good for high blood pressure. With the hot foot bath, yes, we always use a cold compress to the head. We always want to keep the head cold at all times in any kind of treatment. In the back. This is the hot foot bath. I'm gonna show you how to do the treatment now. Yes. Yeah, I'm gonna show you and explain you each step of the treatment. You're gonna get to see it. Yeah, well, I need we're actually not gonna use the water at this time because of the setting, that we have. I'm just gonna show you how to do it, and I mean it's not hard at all. It's very easy to follow. You just need to remember the steps, and so I'm just gonna show you the equipment. So since we have 20 minutes now, let's go ahead and get started with the treatment. So Moms is gonna help me with this treatment. I'm just gonna show you the equipment that you need, and you'll see how fancy it is. You're gonna need a pitcher to put like your warm water, to keep your warm water so you can add warm water at a time. You need one with cold water. We're gonna need a bucket. You can take a seat. A bucket that will be deep enough to cover like with water up to the ankles. Then you need always, you always want to be mindful to protect the area. So we're gonna put a plastic bag under it. Then we're gonna need a couple washcloths and face towels, a towel. We need a blanket and a sheet. So what am I doing? I'm preparing everything ahead of time. Make sure I have everything close to me so I won't have to leave the patient. Oh yeah, it will be good. You always have a foam paper bag close to you in case anything happens. Moms, can you sit right there just a minute so I can prepare and show them this? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and show you. So we're gonna prepare the area first. Before we call the patient, we're gonna prepare the area. So I'm gonna put the plastic bag to protect. Then we put then we can put a towel under it, and we're gonna put this so when they take their feet out of the bucket, they can have where to rest, and you can dry them right away. Then we put the bucket, and we can go ahead and add the hot water. You can have the hot water before. Then we're gonna go ahead and put the blanket before the patient sits down. It's better if it's a wool blanket, but what you have, use. So you make sure it covers the chair and that it goes all the way to the floor because it's going to need to cover the bucket. Then we put the sheet over it in the same way, and we want to use a sheet because most of the time we use a wool blanket, and that can be uncomfortable on the patient. Okay, so once I have all this set, I go ahead and get some ice water. You put some ice and cold water in a bucket and leave it close to your area with a washcloth. It's best to always have two just in case. So you keep those two in there, and then you call the patient. So, Moms, can you please come here? So while she's still sitting down, before she even puts her feet in the bucket, I'm going to explain to her what the treatment is going to be like. So I tell her, Moms, it's a pleasure to have you here. I'm going to do this treatment. It's called a hot foot bath. And we are going to just put your feet in the hot water, and you're going to stay there for about 20 minutes. Okay? So before she puts her feet in the water, always start your treatment with prayer. Because we want to, always, who is the great physician? Jesus. So without him, this treatment is worth nothing. So always start your treatment with a prayer. So we just pray. Dear Heavenly Father, we want to thank you so much for the opportunity of using your natural remedies and using your means for healing. We want to ask you that you may put your healing power over moms, and that you may be able to make this treatment useful. In your name I pray, amen. So next, always before you put the feet of the patient in the water, always have your hand between the water and the feet, because in case the water is too hot for them, because for you it might be okay, but for them it might be too hot. So you put in the feet slowly, always with your hand in the middle. And so you always ask them, is the water okay? Okay. So you're gonna to put the other feet, always putting your hand in the middle, feeling the water. Okay, and if she says the water is okay, then we go ahead and wrap her. We're gonna wrap around the bucket, first with a sheet. And then with a blanket. Yes, this makes them sweat. So the only thing you leave uncovered is the neck and the head. You let them sit there for about 20 minutes. You wait a little bit before you put the cold compress in the head. You wait till they start sweating. And once they start sweating, you get the cold cloth, and you can just put it on their forehead. And it's optional, you could also put it on their neck. Yes. We usually don't take the temperature unless, because it's naturally gonna go up. there's some treatments where you have to control, like a fever therapy, because you're trying to maintain that temperature elevated, but you don't want it to go too high. But in this kind of treatment, is just keeping it with a cold cloth. It shouldn't go too high, so it's not necessary. For diabetics, though, like we use this treatment for hypertension, to lower the blood pressure. Sometimes we do it on diabetics, but you have to be very careful with the water. It should not be warmer than 102. So you have to be careful with the water. But for a patient that doesn't have diabetes, or like varicose veins, or they're paralyzed, or they don't have sensation in their legs, then for a normal patient, you can use it as hot as they can stand. As hot as they can. No, it doesn't. Just as hot as they can stand it. Yeah. So you leave them there for about 20 minutes. Always during the treatment, offer them water. So always have a cup of water. It's better with a straw, so it'll be easier for them to drink it during the treatment. And also you keep adding water, because it will start cooling down as time goes by. So you ask her, is the water getting cold? Can I add some hot water? And so you just move the blanket and the sheet a little bit, just being sure it doesn't get wet. And just always put your hand between you ask the patient to move their feet to the side a little bit. Oh. More? Okay. So you ask them to put one foot on top of the other. So that way, I'm going to add the hot water in one side, in the side where the feet, in the other side where the feet are. But always putting your hand in between the feet and where you're adding the hot water, and you kind of mix it. You mix it with your hand and ask her, is it okay? And if she can stand a little more hot, then you add a little more and mix it. The same thing. So once the water is okay, you cover it again. And always be checking on the cold compress too, because this can warm up really fast. But you always want to keep this cold, so you just go ahead and wet it again and put it back. So after about 20 minutes of doing this, just checking and giving her more water if she needs. And the way we're going to finish the treatment is we're going to take off the blankets. And then we just uncover her. And we have a pitcher with cold water. So what we're gonna do, like all the blood is basically down in the feet right now, and all the blood vessels are dilated. So we want to get them back to normal before we finish. So we're gonna pour cold water over her feet. So we just ask her to raise her feet with her toes pointing up, so the water will go, down. And we just pour that cold water over her feet. Since the temperature, the hot water is hot, even if it's just tap water, it feels cold for her. And so then we just remove the bucket, and that way, we have the towel down there, and she can right away have the towel there, so we can go ahead and dry the feet. So we just dry her feet, and always have her socks, close by too. So the feet, you can warm them up right away. Put on her socks, put on her shoes, and she needs to rest for about 30 minutes at least, 30 minutes to an hour to complete the treatment. So this is one of, like I said, the best treatments, because it helps with so many different things. For people that have hypertension, to help lower the blood pressure, one thing that is helpful, besides just doing this, you can put a hot fomentation in the back, like in the area of the kidneys, and that helps, for the blood vessels to circulate and open, and so that helps to lower the blood pressure. So we would do the same thing, but put a hot fomentation like in her back. And I'm gonna show you later how to do a fomentation, and we're gonna explain a little more about that. And this treatment, you can also do it like if the patient is not able to sit down like this the whole time, you can do it on the bed also. You would use the same way, but instead of wrapping them with a blanket, you can just cover them. And I'll show you once we get on the table. So, does anyone have any questions about this treatment? No. Room temperature. The water should only be room temperature for drinking. Yes. You use it to, like when someone has a cold, a flu, any kind of problems like respiratory problems, headaches, to stop nosebleeds. You also do it for any kind of pain, even a toothache, backache, any kind of pain, to menstrual cramps, prostate disorders, to relieve fatigue, tension, reduce a fever, to warm up the body, lower the blood pressure. Yeah. Yes. It wouldn't affect you. No. It only lowers it if it needs to be lowered. Yeah. Yeah, we had several patients, like when I was working at Wildwood at the Lifestyle Center, patients there, they come with a blood pressure of 190 over 100. And so sometimes, we had to do this treatment. And, sometimes we have so little faith and we don't even believe in the things that we're learning. But it's amazing because I was working there and I had to do that treatment on this lady, and I was like, oh man, I was thinking, man, it's really high. I don't think this is gonna work for her, But I did the treatment, I prayed with her, and like 20 minutes later, after I did the treatment, I checked her blood pressure again, and it came down like 40 points. I was so shocked. I was like, wow, it's amazing. Yeah. Yes, you can continue. You can continue. Oh, yeah. If you do it the first time, if you do that treatment the first time and the blood pressure doesn't come down, you can continue doing it. Like, just do it a little longer. Excuse me. Oh, yeah, you just wait a little bit and do it again. Or if not, you can just continue. It's fine either way. Yeah, you use the rag instead of an ice bag. It's easier, because you can use an ice bag like if they're laying down on the bed, like an ice bag behind the neck. But when they're sitting down, a washcloth is okay. Yes, if you don't see the blood pressure going down, you can repeat it as many times as it's necessary, but it should go down. Yes. The only contraindications for this treatment are loss of sensation in the lower extremities. So it would be like someone that is paralyzed, someone that is unconscious can tell you the water is too hot, or diabetes. You could do some just, that fomentation to the back and put a fomentation to their legs, to their thighs. Yeah, for diabetic, let me repeat her question first. She asked if there's a diabetic, if we could apply the heat to some other place. And yes, we can apply the heat to the kidneys, or if not, to the thigh area, like put a fomentation to the thighs. And that would kind of count like a hot foot bath also. And your question was about diabetics. We can use this treatment for diabetics as long as we control the temperature of the water, that it doesn't go above 102. Okay? So we'll go for a little break now, and we'll come back and we'll go on to the next treatment.